Good evening. This is Angry Taxpayer. I'm your host, Donna Smirnitopoulos, and this is Friday evening, September the 6th. I decided to begin this broadcast with a little musical interlude. It's a rainy, dreary evening, and I thought Fleetwood Mac's Landslide would be appropriate. I'm going to see Fleetwood Mac tomorrow night with a friend, and that got me thinking about some of their greatest hits. Hopefully I'm going to hear some of those tomorrow night. And then for my next act, for my next trick, I would like to talk about Crook Marker. I'm not advertising for them. They're not giving me any money. I picked it up at the liquor store yesterday. This is a spiked seltzer. It is low carb, 80 calories, 1 gram of carb, sweetened with erythritol, and it's a cute little can. Let's not kid ourselves. This is not going to replace my favorite cocktail, which is a Manhattan. It's not going to replace anybody's favorite cocktail. It's not a match for really a great Belgian triple. But, it's fine. It's really okay. And I think, if you're interested in low carb and something light, you should give this one a try, or White Claw. Those are pretty decent. You may find yourself needing to add a couple shots to beef it up, but no, I'm just kidding. That's not what you would do. So this was supposed to be the opening night for the Oyster Festival, and unfortunately, opening night was canceled due to inclement weather. What was interesting about the cancellation is that cancellation notice went up before 2 in the afternoon today. So why would they call the game at 2? I mean, if you're the Yankees and there's a rainout, you're not usually calling the game 4 hours ahead of time. You want to wait and see if things are going to clear. Unless it's like a Category 5 hurricane, pretty much you wait. Now, the Oyster Festival, like any sort of big event in the city, hires public safety people for crowd control, which is probably going to be limited to some drunk they have to carry away, some belligerent drunk. So this means they're going to be hiring extra duty police officers, Norwalk police officers. And typically, the officers who have first dibs on Friday night, which is presumed to be the easier night, are the most senior. So those people would be making around, let's say, $100 an hour. If you don't cancel within 4 hours, you have to pay them something. So I think that the Seaport Association made a pretty prudent economic call, which was that the weather's not looking any better, and we're going to be on the hook for paying these private duty, extra duty police officers and also fire department. They're making time and a quarter, I think, for overtime, which is a little bit less, but they have to get the whole shift. So that's just an interesting tidbit. I encourage everybody to keep up with the contracts in the city. You will learn amazing things. For instance, I learned today that in the 2016 to 2020 contract with the Norwalk Police Department, that they changed from their old paradigm for figuring pensions was based on your last year of regular duty, during which time very often cops would pull a lot of extra duty in order to increase what their average income was. That is no longer the case. However, that only applies, the new system for figuring pension only applies to people who were hired after January 1st of 2015. So I don't know how many people in the police department are relatively new hires, but I think we're still looking forward to considerable pension obligations with respect to the Norwalk Police Department. The next thing on the agenda is Mike Barbis has been much in the news the past 2 days. For one, he posted a picture from a contract negotiation with the Norwalk Federation of Teachers, and Mary Jordan shook her finger and said, "You're not supposed to do that." Full disclosure, Mary Jordan's husband is the campaign treasurer for Harry Rilling. In 2017, I think it was fairly widely known that Mike Barbis was not necessarily supporting Mayor Rilling's candidacy, even though he is a member of the Norwalk Democratic Town Committee and he is running unopposed as a Democrat in his district for re-election to the Board of Education. I'm not sure that he's that big of a fan. So My perception of what's been going on with Mike Barbis and his party has been that since that time, since 2017, when he seemed to have supported Lisa Brinton, albeit quietly, the party or certain people in the party have been kind of out to bring him down. And, I don't think I'm just paranoid in this perception. What really brought it home to me, though, was that the Democratic Town Committee always cross-endorses Rick McQuaid for town clerk. They've done it in the past 2 or 3 election cycles. Everybody loves Rick McQuaid. So the rationale for the NDTC to give that endorsement to Rick McQuaid is we like him so much. This year, Mike Barbis threw his name out there, and the rationale was pretty simple. We should have our own candidate, he said. We should have our own candidate for town clerk. And he was shot down. And when I heard the story, I was pretty surprised, but then I thought, well, part of this is just vendetta. This is vendetta, bad feelings that they have against this particular individual. And then the other part of it is Rick McQuaid being a very popular figure. You don't want people going into the voting booth looking for Rick McQuaid's name and having to stray from line A. So the agenda for the Newark Democratic Town Committee, because they're line A, they're in that most favored position since 2013, they don't want people's eyes to look away, because then they're going to start looking at the other candidates on line B and elsewhere on the ballot. So that's a very cynical point of view. I happen to think that that's the correct point of view. I believe that this is, yes, everyone likes Rick McQuaid. There are a lot of people in the opposing parties who are friends. So the fact that you like someone doesn't mean you don't consider seriously a nomination from your own party for one of these positions. I found it interesting that created so much of a ruckus. The other Mike Barbis article was about tax liens on some real estate, and I think in the real estate crisis, something that he owned may have gone underwater. These are problems that a lot of us in Norwalk are facing. Our taxes are going up. It's harder and harder to handle the carrying costs for a property in Norwalk, especially property in Rowayton. It seems like there were efforts made to resolve the issue. I can't think of any reason for the blog to cover this, aside from the Democratic vendetta against Mike Barbis. It seems pretty plain to me. I don't know if the average viewer is sensitive to some of the inner turmoil and drama of the NDTC, but believe me, it's there. And the last thing I want to talk about is, speaking of the NDTC, you can't talk about the Newark Democratic Town Committee without talking about Edwin Camacho. And the last time I broadcast, I talked about the Ventura contract. Now, it seems apparent that there is a relationship between when Ed Camacho was hired as a partner by Ventura Law and when the mayor's office and the law department and Corporation Counsel Mario Coppola decided that not only did the city want to file suit against the pharmaceutical companies in order to recover damages from the opioid epidemic, but that they wanted to hire Ventura. A very suspicious person might think that Ventura hired Mr. Camacho because he promised them that he could deliver this retainer. I have no evidence that this is so. I simply think it's a possibility that we ought to consider. And the reason that it is a compelling possibility is that in the early goings, there was no other law firm under consideration. And it was only under a little bit of pressure that Mr. Coppola thought it prudent to at least give lip service to the idea that we don't just hand contracts or retainers to law firms that happen to have party chairpeople as partners, recent partners. I would love for the local press to look into this further. I think that there should be an investigation of what went on there, because everything I know about The retainer of Ventura law is irregular. I believe there were people on the council who knew damn well that Ed Camacho was a partner. I believe that Mario Coppola tried to suppress that information that Ed Camacho was a partner at Ventura. I think there were some people on the council who didn't know that he was a partner. I think most of them probably did not understand the potential for impropriety. But as we know, Purdue Pharma, it would like to settle these lawsuits. They are throwing out $11 billion to do it. If the city is able to win some amount of money from Purdue Pharma to settle this lawsuit, and Ventura benefits, Ed Camacho benefits. That's inappropriate. It's got to stop. It should be investigated. And everyone involved should have been interviewed already by the Board of Ethics. They chose not to do so. Perhaps this is an issue for a higher up investigative body, maybe at the federal level. I'm not sure, but I think it stinks to high hell. And I think that it's pretty shameful behavior on the part of the inner circle at City Hall. So on that note, I'm going to return you now to Fleetwood Mac, hopefully. No, I'm not. I lied. All right, good night. And hopefully we'll have a lovely evening tomorrow for the Oyster Festival. Ta-ta.